Now we're going to Palenque, which is an amazingly epic site that is not in the Puig style architecture that dates back much earlier than that. We have evidence to suggest that at least in 2600 BC, it was beginning to be populated and structures were being created around there. And here is a somewhat panoramic image of Palenque. And this right here is not even a fraction, not even a fraction, not even a quarter of the whole area. That goes much, much larger, all the way into the jungle. And we're pretty high up on, I guess it's a hill, big hill, mountains, not really a mountain, but you do have to just go upwards basically on this huge hill incline when you get to Palenque. So it is raised up quite a bit. Now at Palenque, there are over 1,400 unexcavated there are over 1,400 unexcavated temples, and we're going to show you a few videos right now of us going to this area. When we go there, when you go there, when anyone goes there, you can go to two different areas. One is you can take a trek through the jungle, which will take you to the unexcavated temples that you can walk and trek around. We only even spent a little bit of time there. You could spend a whole day in that area and keep walking over pyramids and structures. And then there's the main excavated area with the main temples and pyramids over there. Um, and you can also, that one is pretty much open. We're going to show you that as well, where you can walk through it and go to the different pyramids. But firstly, let's go ahead and take a look at these unexcavated areas. The main reason for it is, firstly, they don't know everything that's in these pyramids and structures, but it does look like that most of these temples and houses were just that. They were houses that housed people, rather than the other site where you have the main structures that house the mathematicians, the astronomers, the elite were there, the ceremonies were done, the games were played. So let's go ahead and take a look now at the Palenque jungle.
Stairs of a pyramid, and you can see it because it elevates.
So that right in front of us is a pyramid, and we're standing on one right now. ¿Cuántos pirámides temples?
1473.
1,473. 1,473 unexcavated pyramidas. Pyramidas in this area right here. And here's one of them. Wow. Just wonder what's inside these things.
You talked on right there.
So we're climbing up the steps of an unexcavated pyramid now. Oh, just rained the last 3 days, so it's extremely slippery.
Las raíces del árbol. Y esta es la raíz de una liana. Mira cómo sigue el tronco y sigue hacia arriba.
Oh, so the roots have wrapped around from the bottom and then come back up as if it's a tree, but it's actually the roots, and it's now like a twin of the tree all the way up. Y vuelve a bajar también.
Vuelve a enredarse.
And then it comes back down to, like, it'll just wrap around up and down the whole until it stops growing.
El árbol ya está comido por dentro por las termitas, ya está hueco por dentro.
So it's hollow inside because the termites have eaten it.
Y sobre el tronco se pueden ver varias plantas. Muy bien. Y de aquí, estas pirámides.
¿Cuál es el año de pirámides?
Estas pirámides fueron del año 300 al 900 después de Cristo.
So here we have pyramids that are made después o antes?
Después de Cristo.
300 hasta
al 900, hasta 900 después de Cristo.
So these pyramids were made 300 to 900 years after Christ.
So this is a newer construction than the main part of Palenque.
1000 años de abandonado.
So what he just said was that those structures, those housing, those dwellings, whatever they are, were created around, he said 300 to 900 years after Christ, right? So AD. So, which is around, so Palenque was actually created a couple thousand years before that. So these structures were one of the last phases of construction. And we have the same year now, 900 CE, which happens to be the time where we see a mass abandonment of these structures. So it is safe to probably note that these structures were the last ones that were created in the area before there was a mass migration out of Palenque.
Ya. Mira la liana. Hasta allá se
So
puede.
serán estos más chicos como más casas.
All the
Casas
rocks that you
o
see are
edificios
pyramid rocks
habitacionales.
Oh, so these
throughout
are
all these videos that you've seen, all
habitational
these big chunks of
homes
stone everywhere.
or buildings that were always habitated. The other ones are more like
Mayan rocks?
yeah,
Pyramid rocks.
pyramid rocks.
So, well, what they were just saying is that this side, a lot of habitations, right? A lot of residential.
Yes.
The other side, ceremonial, scientists, astronomers,
Ceremony place.
government.
Ceremony temples.
Yeah.
And there we have a big pyramid. Here is more. Maya habitation. Maya
Yeah, a little
rooms.
smaller.
Yeah, it's more.
Mm-hmm.
And here is a map of Palenque in Chiapas, Mexico. And I don't expect you to take this all in. It's pretty massive, but just take a little overview right here and look how huge this is. And this is just what they can actually map out in certain areas you can go to, including areas in the jungle. But chances are it's much bigger than this. You even see the waterways, the little rivers. It's really ideal location for civilization to thrive. And here's the map that they actually give you when you go to Palenque. Of this is the area. So we just saw images of us in the jungle, but this is the area of the excavated part that you can go into and see some of these sites, walk on top of most of them, and even go into some of them.
So here we have the top part of a pyramid that they call the cupola.
Is this the entrance?
Yes.
Has anybody gone inside this? No?
No.
All right, let's do it.
It's more.
Yeah. Let's sit in here then.
Original Maya architecture.
All right.
It's possible to down. You walk here.
Mm.
The exit is there.
Oh, okay.
Short.
It's like a little small tunnel.
So that was just, imagine a pyramid, and at the top you may have seen some images, in some movies even, that show you the structure on top. That's the temple that you can walk through, that you can look like. If you're at the bottom of the pyramid, you see the structure on top, you can see the other side of it, and a lot of times that's where the priest would be hanging out. And I'm talking about, movies, what they show in those situations, because honestly, we don't really know exactly how things went down because there's so much that's not understood yet. But that was what that area is. It's really the top of the pyramid, the temple right at the top of it. So Palenque, Mexico, around 200 BC to 799 AD, we see it flourishing, and it did exist hundreds, if not thousands of years before that. We have evidence of people settling in the area, a central hub for trade, commerce, diplomacy, and foreign affairs. It was overgrown, so it was extremely important. It was like a capital city would be important in regards to having a lot of the centralized information there when it comes to the stars, astronomy, research being done. And it's been overgrown by jungle and trees and is only now partially restored. Just like I've alluded to a few times in this presentation, is that there weren't as many trees and as much thick jungle as there is now back then. It's really, a lot of them has been taken over by the jungle. So many of those sites right there, especially where the unexcavated structures are, wasn't so full of trees, so much easier to navigate around. Many different ethnic groups are represented here, and we'll get into that in a minute. May have been an area for global affairs and great minds to share ideas. And it's important to note the global affairs. We're not just talking about Maya. We're just not talking about the Maya and Aztecs. We're talking about worldwide. It looks like maybe there was some sort of connection to a worldwide civilization here, where they were aware of other civilizations and tribes that existed. It truly is, for me, out of all the ones that we've been to, and I know there's a few that I haven't, including Tikul, which was one of the largest sites. It's one of the most impressive Maya sites. It's really breathtaking. And I had the I was blessed to actually go there on my birthday not last year, the year before. So in 2019, we went on my birthday, and that was the first time we went. So all of those images, and I really wanted to be there. I felt a huge connection to, of course, the Yucatan, but I definitely feel a huge connection to Palenque. So I wanted to be there on my birthday, and we made it all work out and got to experience that. Palenque was rediscovered and lost several times until 1841. So just like, I spoke about Uxmal, how they never forgot about it. It was always known. And how Altan Ha, it was forgotten about, and it was only rediscovered until the late 19th century, right? And so Palenque was actually rediscovered and lost many times until 1841, starting with the first abandonment that happened around 800 to 900 AD. Pakal the Great was probably the most well-known emperor of Palenque, and he lived from 615 to 683, and he was known for rebuilding Palenque. So Palenque had been around for quite some time at that point, so he was known for being this whole reconstructive phase and rebuilding Palenque. And now we're going to start our entrance into the main site.
This is it. Okay, so that building right there, towards the top, that is the building where the astronomers, the mathematicians, the scientists, the politicians would all gather. And we're gonna go up those stairs, take a look inside where they used to have their meetings. First, we're gonna go in there.
So the first time we went, we had a tour guide that really broke down a lot of things for us. The second time, which is what we're watching now, we went by ourselves to kind of look and explore further into what we've been told about Palenque.
We're gonna climb up this pyramid here. This is actually a temple.
There's no flash allowed.
It's very humid in here. Check it out. Burial chamber. people up there.
I'm gonna be outside.
Okay. Same in here. Seems like this was blocked off. It used to be something.
In Palenque, there is a place called the Temple of Inscriptions, and it's one of the most well-noted places within that site. And the Temple of Inscriptions is an ancient name, and the ancient name was actually Lacama, which means big water. Its existence was unknown until 1773, when it was discovered by the Spanish explorer Ramon de Ordóñez y Aguilar. The 5 entrances in front of the building are surrounded by 5 piers with images and hieroglyphics. These tablets emphasize the idea that events happened in the past will be repeated on the same calendar date. So these hieroglyphs are basically saying that things that have happened in the past are going to be happening again when certain cycles are over. The second longest known Mayan inscriptions is located at this area in temple inscriptions, 617 glyph columns. So not 617 glyphs, but columns of glyphs. A few columns record of various events in Pacal's life. So these columns really started with Pacal. He was very much into not only reconstruction, but record keeping. He wanted to keep a record of his reign, but also a record of the history of the Maya Empire. If it wasn't for Pacal, many of what we know about Maya architecture and history and culture, we might not even have found out. All of the tablets, excluding the final 2 columns, were completed during his life, Pacal's lifetime, and a record approximately 180 years of the city's history recorded during Pacal's lifetime. Here we go, Temple of Inscriptions. And this is an artist's depiction of how it looked during that time, right? So the color was different and the dye had come off. And this is what it looks like inside. You see the staircase inside of it? How cool is that? There's a pyramid structure that I pointed out in the first video of us entering into the Palenque site that was specifically utilized by the intellectuals, the scientists, the mathematicians, the astronomers, and all the ones that really contributed to the creation of a very advanced society. They lived and worked in this building. So after 800, we don't see any new elite construction occurring. An agricultural population continued to live here for a few generations, but then the site was completely abandoned. So by the time the Spanish arrived in 1520, Palenque was entirely evacuated. Maybe there was some sporadic agricultural tribes there, but even from the history research, it seems that even by that time, which was another 600-700 years after the abandonment, there wasn't really that much going on in that area at all. The Spanish are here. So Juan Ponce de Leon, he sailed near Yucatan in 1513, and this is how the Spanish interacted and met the Maya. Juan Ponce de Leon sailed near the Yucatan in 1513 on his way to Florida. In 1517, while on an expedition to procure slaves, a conquistador known as Francisco Hernandez de Cordova, he arrived. So this was 1517. Cortez then sailed for the Yucatan on February 18th, 1519. So in 1517, Francisco Hernandez de Cordova arrived on the Yucatan Peninsula, but didn't explore it. He just touched down for a little bit. Cortez then came there on February 18th of 1519. He had 11 ships, 508 soldiers, and about 100 sailors, and 16 horses with him. In March of 1519, he landed at Tabasco, where he stayed for a time in order to gain intelligence from the local natives over there. And then he made his way, connected, and met the Maya. Here's an image of such a situation when Cortez made first contact. Now I'm going to show you here a panoramic image of Palenque just to get like a really cool view. So we're going to start from here. This is where I was standing. We have a pyramid structure that I'm right on top of a structure there. And yes, Palenque is a very popular place. It's one of the largest sites. So, and it's older than many other sites. So it definitely draws a huge crowd. This structure right here is just like breathtaking when you take a look at it. You see they have some construction going on right here to repair it, but this thing is just like beautiful on top of a hill. And maybe we'll get a video of it in a bit. Then the jungle, beyond the jungle are those unexcavated temples. Behind me of the pyramid I was on. And now this is me walking to another location in here. So let's take a little walking tour of Palenque. Temple of inscriptions right there.
In the sun the least possible.
Are you gonna go up here with me?
Yeah.
I doubt it because the thing's right in the middle of that place that we saw. You want me to take a picture of you here? No, we went up this.
Now we're going to the top of the structure where a lot of astronomers, mathematicians, government officials, they would meet up and have conversations. Similar to, a Senate, similar to a Congress, but bringing in professionals from all types of areas.
So this is where all the elite of the society, in a not negative way, the astronomers, politicians, scientists, artists.
Visitors from all over the world.
Yeah, well, they would come because the Mayans was a huge culture. The original culture 3,000 years ago definitely did trade with other cultures around the world. And this is where they would meet. And then the other side we're going to go is where they actually would hang out and basically kind of like a court, kind of like a room where people from all over the world and all the scientists would gather and discuss.
As you can tell, I'm out of breath there.
See the hieroglyphs right there?
This is the courtyard where a lot of meetings would occur. Actually, and in the other area as well. You're about to see. All right, here it is, the main area.
This is where
on top of this
basically
structure
they would all come sit on these steps right here and discuss matters.
World matters.
World matters, matters about society, and also forged. This right here is where the Mayan culture was forged, where there's evidence here to suggest that the Indians from India were here. One of the tribes of Abraham was here. Egyptians came here. The Chinese were here. There's even an area where we're going to look for where there's a dragon that represents the Chinese people that were here. So let's say around 3,000 years ago, people from all over the world, before the Mayans were the Mayans, came here and built this civilization and would gather in this area and crafted what we now know as the Mayan Empire.
And they say
civilization.
That giants roamed here and that they're actually giant people. And they used to have basically what we would call an orgy, and different orgies from the women. But it was like a peaceful type of like a spiritual thing.
Like sacred sexuality?
Yeah.
It really looked like that this area was a place where the Mayan civilization was really mapped out and put together. So what has been speculated about is that this area could have been, at the beginning of the Mayan civilization, really, that different tribes and cultures from around the world came to this area, and the Mayan civilization was an experiment on how they can bring the best of all of their civilizations and craft what we then knew, what then became the Mayan civilization. So my theory is, and I'm being very careful with what I'm saying here because this isn't commonly accepted, it's not really spoke about, but evidence is coming out that there is a lot more to discover here. And part of that is that there is themes that many other civilizations from around the world came to this area to have meetings with whoever lived here, and some of them even stayed and created this whole civilization. So could it be that the Maya wasn't an exact tribe that it became, but there were multiple tribes from all over the world that blended together over thousands of years and then became what we currently know as the Maya descendants? And I would say the evidence suggests yes. And the reason why is if you look at the Maya architecture and their artwork, it has a lot of influences from, ancient India, from China especially. And then if you listen to the dialect, the way they speak, it's almost like a combination between like a Chinese dialect, Sanskrit, and their hieroglyphs definitely have a connection to ancient Egypt. So could it have been that the Mayan civilization was actually a descendant of multiple great civilizations sharing what it was that made them so great at what they did, from the spirituality in the East to the architecture in China, and then they came here and did this. So I really think that is what probably did happen. A lot more information needs to come out for that, especially the fact that there's over 50% of the Maya structures that are unexcavated, unexplored. And a lot of their scriptures and texts were destroyed a long time ago. So if we're ever going to find out if that's the case or not, maybe we will, maybe we won't. Maybe we can do DNA testing and see how far back we can go. But there's something there, and it definitely occurred in Palenque. Okay, so now this one right here is, we're in the same area, right? And this entire area actually used to have a roof. And just like we had seen in Kaaba, how many of these structures fall down from the roof, this whole roof actually caved in, and now slabs of the roof are put all the way around the area just for people to see and kind of take a look at and even feel.
All right, so last time we're here, unfortunately we can't go into that side right now. It's closed off for some reason. But you see that slab right there, and the slab on the right-hand side. Those are actually part of the roof originally. This whole thing had a roof over it. And even though they're solid rock, and we have a clip that I'm gonna look for at home, see if I can plug it in here. When you hit those rocks, they make these harmonics, these beautiful harmonics. Whereas when they were over here and as the roof, when they were part of the roof, when it would rain, when there would be wind, and this is like a wind tunnel, like wind would literally come through here. Just the way it's structured, that they would make harmonic sounds on there. And then we would have all the ancient cultures around this area right here getting together to discuss politics, science, astronomy, spirituality, all of that stuff. And at the same time as they're doing that, whenever the wind would come through and it would rain, it would create these frequencies that will basically bombard all these people in here. So the theory is that we both have is that those frequencies were harmonics that were designed to uplift, enlighten, activate chakras. There's a chakra symbol here, and many other cultures in the ancient past had similar structures that also had harmonics that was specifically designed to create that frequency within them. Whereas in India, for example, we actually have pillars that were made to give you the same sounds as the solfeggios, which in Indian scriptures are actually saregama and not sol, re, mi, da, which actually represent each of the chakra symbols.
Also in Egypt, they have these, I think, also pillars that we've yet to see, but I've been told that when the wind blows, it's the same type of thing. So pyramids and structures were known to have sound frequency from nature.
So that
was really helpful to humanity.
To recap what you just saw right there, is that these sites have some amazing awareness of acoustics and sound and vibration in them, right? We spoke about Hampi, India in this last video, which is where they had the Saregama pillars that you can see in multiple other courses and presentations I've done, including the Ultimate Sound Frequency course, where I show you that these pillars, just regular stone, and you cut them open, regular stone, but when you play them, have this acoustics, this resonance, this sounds like Tibetan bowls. But when the British went there and they cut it open, they just looked like regular rock. They were like, what is this? So this we discover all over the world. The ancients had this advanced awareness of sound and frequency, and they utilized it in the creation of structures. But the really beautiful part is that they knew how to organically use sound and frequency, whereas now we're using a lot of external equipment and awareness in order to create these sites, but they were using organic structures to do similar things. So that stone slab that I pointed out there, that used to be on top of the roof. There are windows, and I think you might be able to see a little window here that's kind of like a, it's like a plus sign, but only half of a plus sign really is how the windows are. But they've created these amazing wind tunnels, right? The way they created these structures not only had sound and frequency in mind, but they also had ventilation in mind. They created these epic acoustic structures without ACs and incorporated ventilation. And the way this structure was created was there were certain windows put in place that would channel the vibration and channel the air, the wind into this room. And these ceilings were created off these slabs that had the similar acoustic and resonant effects like the Hampi stones, like Tibetan bowls, like the pillars in Egypt, and so much more. So now we know that this area was utilized for the elite of society. And I need to make a disclaimer when I say that. I don't mean elite in the negative sense that we speak about it nowadays about these elite taking over. I just mean the ones that really were the ones cultivating and creating the society, from the government, from the mathematicians, from the scientists, and so on. So they were over here in this area, but the structure, the roof that they were in, when it would rain, when it would when the wind would come through, would create these beautiful oscillating frequency sounds. So to me, I was pretty amazed. We were both amazed that not only was this an area for enlightenment where people from all over the world came to share their ideas, but also the structure was created to further contribute to creating a frequency so that the people that were here sitting in this area could absorb that vibration. And that's almost to me like a direct connection to source, making sure that all these conversations were elevated. And even the pyramids, we know the pyramids are resonant frequency. I mean, the pyramids in Egypt were resonant frequency creating devices. And there's a lot of information on there, including a documentary called The Pyramid Code that really explains it all. And these devices were utilized for people to go into to shift their consciousness to other levels of existence and other realities so that they can bring down that information and live and implement it in this modern time, or even use, like in Egypt, for example, as a portal to the other world, to the afterlife, by being buried in a chamber that is emanating frequencies that can create that rainbow bridge to that other world. So it seems like similar awareness was utilized here at Palenque.
So just imagine this. When we came here last week, we learned this piece of information. So let's just say, recap, 3,000 years ago, civilizations from all over the world, advanced civilizations, all sent all sent groups of people around the world, and many of them ended up here. The ones that we know ended up here are the Chinese. There's evidence here for that. There's evidence here that the Indians from India were here. The Egyptians were here. One of the tribes of Israel was here. And they all coalesced in this area, discussed matters, and the Mayan civilization was born. They brought the best of each of their cultures and they created something beautiful, which is why in Mayan text you have yoga, you have chakra symbols. There's a chakra symbol somewhere here too. I don't know if we can find it because we don't have a guide this time. We got to go look. And then there's the dragon from the Chinese. There's different symbols that represent these other cultures.
And here is one of the windows that I was telling you about that are created perfectly in the right position as well in order to channel the wind into this area and create really great ventilation. And you can see that one was closed off.
And these are called the air conditioning windows. These teeny tiny little windows are for ventilation and for inside of the pyramid. That's the only use that these little tiny windows had. This was their air conditioning.
And it keeps everything very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it looks like we can go up this structure. No one's here, so I'm gonna go up there myself. Let's take a look at this temple. Wow. Amazing. Let's get a full view of this place, go all the way around. No stone unturned for Portal to Ascension. And if you guys want to support us so we can go around the world and keep doing stuff like this, you can do that on our Patreon page, Portal to Ascension Patreon. Support us so we can go and cover more ancient secrets. Stay tuned for the full documentary for Palenque. Probably come out in a month or so. So you can see those windows right there for ventilation. Whoa, almost fell. Look at that. Remember, the jungle wasn't so thick 2,000, 3,000 years ago. So imagine what it looked like then, especially because there's 1,400 something temples that direction. 1,400. Most of them were housing, habitations. So a lot of people lived here. And without all these trees, all this huge trees. Whoa. Without all these trees there, you could probably see the whole entire town. Okay, let's take a look inside. Here's the view.